let's talk about the most common cases why programmers get fired. Be you a business owner who runs an IT outsourcing business, or be an individual programmer or individual freelancer, there are certain reasons that unite all of the cases. And before we jump straight into the most common cases why programmers get fired, make sure to hit the like button, this is an important one, and subscribe to not miss our new episodes. We talk all sorts IT jobs here and IT businesses, how to run an IT outsourcing business or how to find an IT job. So if you're interested in that as well as an online business, make sure to stick around. And we start with our today's topic, and that is most common cases why programmers get fired. And the first case is inability to meet commitments. This is a trait in a programmer or in any person that will lead to failure, and that is inability to estimate the project and inability to keep up with your own estimate. This is one of the most common reasons why programmers get fired, because if one case is not enough to fire a person, if the person does that on a constant basis, you're damaging my business. So inability to meet certain requirements, to meet certain commitments, especially your own estimates, that is painful if your failure affects the entire project and as a result the business. Then you get fired, or your programmer gets fired and your relationships with the customer suffer. The second pretty sad reason why programmers get fired is inability to work in a team because of ego, and that is a very bad trait that gets programmers fired. Like, you may not believe it, especially if you're say from a Western society where people are trying to avoid conflicts or trying not to show their attitude so much, but even in Western societies and in Western companies, I did meet such an attitude where a programmer thinks that they know more than everybody else in the company does, and because of this attitude, I don't want to say arrogant attitude, but a certain attitude that prevents to work in a team and makes it difficult for a team to work with them, and that always ends badly. I knew so many brilliant geniuses even. Sometimes they were able to perform the job, certain type of job, better than anyone, but because of their attitude, nobody was even able to work with them, and they ended up being fired for good reasons, so good riddance. And another common reason why programmers get fired is inability to work on a project because of ego. Again, there are certain type of programmers who think they know better than, say, a product manager or the owner of the product themselves, and they know better how to deliver and which features a product does need and which features the product doesn't need. It sounds weird, but I have met with this type of people, this type of programmers who would either reluctantly work on that feature or say that you're all idiots and the product doesn't need it and I know better. And that ends up badly and typically in disemployment. Another sad situation when you as a programmer or your people, programmers, if you're an IT outsourcing business owner, may get fired is a discriminatory behavior. And I hate to speak about that because I thought that discrimination doesn't exist simply because I was born in a different society and because I was lucky not to encounter such a behavior. But then later on in my career, I did meet with this behavior, and that is frustrating. And I'm sure in Western societies, this type of behavior would not be tolerated. It isn't like frequently met, I won't say so. If it is met, it may end badly. Not in all societies, definitely not so, especially when you come, say, perhaps from an Asian or Eastern European countries, discriminatory behavior may be tolerated. In Western societies, not so much. And again, I hate to approach this subject, I don't like it at all, and I typically don't address it, but this is one of the common reasons that programmers get fired, so don't fall into this trap, and warn your programmers not to fall into this trap if you are an IT outsourcing business owner. Another common case why programmers get fired is inability to keep up. In modern world and in IT specifically, things tend to change rapidly. New tools arise and new programming languages and new platforms and new approaches. So if you are the type of person who is not a fast learner and who is unwilling and reluctant to learn new technologies, new approaches, then you may find it hard to keep up with your job, and as a result, you may find it hard to keep your job at all. Another common case why programmers get fired is a contradictory one, because that is introducing new tools in the company without the management consent. And if you are an IT business owner, you should be very careful with that, and you should make sure that this never happens to your people and your programmers. And if you are a programmer yourself, again, never introduce new tools without the consent of the management, even if you think that these tools will work to the benefit of the project. And yes, they may, but firstly, before you introduce those tools to the team, introduce them to the management and make sure that you are approved to do that. Another common case why programmers get fired is sarcasm, and that may be a sarcasm out of frustration, but it doesn't really matter. Your attitude is what matters. And if you have that attitude like, yeah, whatever you like, boss, of course nobody will like that. People are not idiots, and they will sense your attitude and your frustration and your sarcastic approach and your reluctance. People will sense that. So don't be that toxic person, don't be sarcastic at work. Another common reason why programmers get fired is poor quality code. If someone keeps getting bugs and does not test due diligence, the company's costs become high in a short time, and they lose not only money but also time, especially if the customer finds bug in your software time and over again. This is an extremely important one if you are an IT outsourcing business owner, because even if the development team does not bear the cost of the support service, your company does. Let us be just and honest though, and let us just state that sometimes programmers get fired for all the wrong reasons. Sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes it's some under-carpet games or mismanagement. Because let us face it, there are bad bosses everywhere. I wouldn't say bad bosses, but bad managers, people who are terrible at managing human resources, and sometimes it gets out of the control and great programmers are being fired because of those managers. For example, if the manager is incapable of manage toxic people in the team, it may seem the easiest solution for them to fire that toxic person, despite that person maybe they aren't toxic, maybe they're just concerned about the project and they don't know how to manage their frustration and their concerns. And if that manager is not empathetic, if is not flexible with people, it may be the easiest solution for them to just fire that person who's just nervous about the job. This is one of the wrong reasons to fire a person. Another one is to use the wrong metrics. Sometimes non-tech people manage tech people and it's not always working out. Sometimes there might be situations like a great programmer writing fewer lines of code than other programmers. And in fact, this is a better quality code, but the manager thinks that they are just working less than the rest of the team, which is totally wrong. So using the wrong metrics to measure a programmer's level of involvedness in the project is totally wrong and one of the most common reasons why programmers get fired. Another common wrong reason for the programmers to get fired is ego or narcissism of the manager. And that relates to micromanagement, and that relates to the manager not being flexible, because sometimes you simply cannot put programmers, tech people, engineering team into rules and regulations that are okay for the rest of the team, say. Sometimes you just cannot do that, and you shouldn't do that as a smart, wise manager, but some managers do. It's either my way or you're fired. And that's the most stupid reason to fire a programmer, but that happens. Another common wrong reason why programmers get fired is for the managers to focus on the how and not the what. So not to focus on the vision and the end product, but to focus on the process. And that is another stupid reason for people to get fired, because that is the manager's problem. That is them micromanaging the process and focusing on how we do that and how we approach that, and bugging the team all the time, without focusing on the end project. Sometimes you don't really have to micromanage, you don't really have to do that at all. You just have to care for the end result. Some managers don't get that and things get ugly. Another common wrong reason for the programmers to get fired is the manager's inability to interpret and translate the business needs of the company or the project to the development team. And this is why we need such people as business analysts who will translate the business needs of the client or of the company to the development team, because sometimes tech people are not business people. They don't know why the client or the company wants to build that product. But if they knew that fact, they might have taken a better approach. If you, as a manager, fail to do that, your team will fail and it will end up in firing people, in crashing the project, and ending up your relationships with the customer. If you don't want that to happen to your team, make sure to check out my coaching program for IT outsourcing business owners. I'm not boasting to have the best IT outsourcing company in the world, surely not so, but I can share my approach and what works for us and what doesn't, and I can share with you some of the things that other IT business owners want. Anyways, if you did like this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe and click the notification bell to not miss our new episodes. We talk all sorts of IT outsourcing and online businesses here, as well as IT jobs and online jobs. So make sure to stick around, and I want you to go and watch this playlist next, where I talk in details how to get an IT job and how to work on Upwork if you would like to go this way. So go and check this out. I'll see you there and see you next week as well. Bye.